And happy Sunday, everyone. I'm Jonathan McNamara with JMU Sound Off. The inaugural Battle of the Gavel goes to JMU after the Dukes dispatched the Herd of Marshall 35-23 to move to 8-1 on the season, 6-0 in Sun Belt play, and everything remains in front of us, both our path towards a Sun Belt championship as well as a potential berth in the college football playoff. We're going to get to all of the breakdown of yesterday's action against Marshall, and we're going to look forward to this week's game against App State, in a game that everyone in JMU Nation understands just how important it is. But we're also going to have, right off the top of the show, guests from the JMU Bass Fishing program as we continue to highlight some of the programs on campus that make JMU unique and special. You're going to want to hear this interview. It's going to be a great conversation. But with that, we want to get right to our sponsors, Skyline Financial Partners. Remember that you can empower your family for lasting financial success by learning more at skylinefinancialpartners.com. Champions Drive Bourbon. Remember that every bottle of Champions Drive that is purchased goes to support student athletes on campus at JMU and our pursuit of championships. You can find an ABC store near you that sells Champions Drive by visiting abc.virginia.gov. I want to recognize our friends from Where's Woody. Remember that you can get 25% off the entire Where's Woody collection at where'swoody.com by entering promo code SOUNDOFF25. You're going to get 25% off. Again, that's for 48 hours after every Sound Off episode, and that is at where'swoody.com. Our friends from Purple Nation, now with stores in Midlothian, the west end of Richmond, Northern Virginia, as well as coastal Virginia. The holidays are right around the corner, and now is the perfect time to stock up on great JMU gear. You can shop online always at yourpurplenation.com. Our friends from Shoker Enterprises, Joe Shoker, always doing amazing work in and around the Harrisonburg community, doing his best to impact personal, civic, and institutional productivity for success. So thank you to Joe Shoker. Want to recognize the Dead Meat Society. They were in Marshall yesterday, partnering with our friends from the Thundercast on an incredible tailgate yesterday. They're the ones that helped us launch the Battle for the Gavel. Shout out to Russ, just an incredible demonstration of hospitality. We now have a year to plan our return tailgate with them when they come to Harrisonburg. We got to match their energy for sure. So shout out, as always, to the Dead Meat Society. Remember that you can join the movement for grilling enthusiasts at deadmeatsociety.com. Outdoor Kitchen Creations. If you're looking for some great holiday gifts, want to take your tailgating and outdoor kitchen to the next level, you can learn more at backyardtrends.com. And then finally, Valley Road Vineyards. They are the official Virginia farm winery of JMU Sound Off. And the next time you're on I-64 between Harrisonburg and Richmond, stop by, tell them that you heard about the winery from JMU Sound Off, and you'll receive 50% off your wine plate. And remember to consider Valley Road Vineyards as your destination for weddings, rehearsal dinners, birthday parties, or your holiday gathering. You can learn more at valleyroadwines.com. And with that, I'm going to bring on Taylor Atkins. Taylor, you are a passionate bass fisher, somebody who's always out enjoying everything that nature has to offer. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you so you can introduce our very special guests.
Yes, if I'm not in Bridgeforth Stadium, you can usually find me on the James River, the New River, somewhere down here on my kayak with a rod in my hand and enjoying God's creation and fisheries that we have here in Southwest Virginia. So I was really excited when The Breeze did an article about a month ago on JMU's bass fishing team, some of the success that they've had recently, and reached out to those guys, wanted to bring them onto the JMU Sound Off to introduce them to the JMU Nation and give them a chance to talk a little bit more about their club. So with no further ado, I want to bring on Daniel and Hayden from the JMU bass fishing team. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. Guys, first, tell us a little bit about the club, how it got started. I know we talked a little pre-show. I think it was like 2017. You guys got going, but kind of talked about who founded it, how it got started, and kind of where you are today.
So originally it was founded in 2017 by Blake Miles. Him and a few buddies wanted to start competing nationally, and they had a way to do that through JMU. They just needed a jersey and the rights to use the logo and everything for the Bassmaster Series. And then once they got verified that they had a club organization figured out, they just started signing up for the tournaments every year, and we've been traveling ever since. Like last year, we got to go to Florida at Okeechobee. We're going back there this year, actually, in January, which pretty excited to do that again. But what?
Yeah, it's definitely it's a club and a team, but overall, just a great group of people. It kind of brings us together. It is bass fishing, but it's really just a fishing club overall. We don't always go for bass. Of course, when we're tournament fishing, we're going for bass, which is our favorite, but we do a little bit of everything.
So talk a little bit about how it's organized, maybe at the regional and national level. Are there divisions? Are there leagues? Like, who are you competing against? And, how can people track where the JMU club is ranking across the country?
So we compete against every college nationally. I mean, we're going against Clemson, we're going against LSU, we're going against everyone. There's community colleges we go against. It's literally everybody. Anybody that has a team that signs up for the Bassmaster Series, we go against. Mainly Southern schools, because Southern schools give scholarships for bass fishing and everything. They'll pay for the boats. Chick-fil-A, there's a Chick-fil-A wrap boat at LSU, which is pretty cool. We always get excited to see that one. But most of that makes it possible for us is our sponsors and stuff. So we really never rely on them.
Definitely. And we go through Bassmaster, but also Major League Fishing. So it's two kind of different brackets we go through.
Yeah.
I guess.
So are there multiple tournaments throughout the year, or is there one major tournament that declares? I mean, can someone win the national championship in bass fishing?
Yeah. So there's 3 main events for the Bassmaster College Series every year. The first one's in January, the next one's in March, and there's one in June, I think. And then between those two tournaments, we have a Bass Nation State tournament, which if you win that tournament, you go automatically to nationals. You don't have to be top 20 or whatever. You have to win it. You go straight to nationals from there, which we actually should have won last year. But that was a little sad, upsetting. But other than those ones, there's Major League Fishing, MLF. We fished one of those already this year, about 2 months ago, on the Potomac River.
So to kind of bring this to get some of the alumni and folks listening to this, get a little more competitive, Virginia Tech, they've kind of joked about how the one national championship Virginia Tech has was a 2007 Bass Fishing National Championship. So, would love an opportunity for JMU to get to the point where they can steal even that spotlight from them. But you talked about sponsors, you talked about support. Talk a little bit about your sponsorships, and if there are people listening that would want to support you, how they could do that.
Well, we have an Instagram page, JMU_Bass, I believe. That's the best way to contact us quick. We have a Facebook page too. I think I have access to it now. Something happened to it, so we weren't able to answer the messages, but I think we might have figured out. But if you can text us on Instagram, reach out to us there. We have an email, jmubassfishing@gmail.com. That's a good way to get in contact with me. But really our sponsors, there's different sizes of things. Valley Stores are a big sponsor, so they got a big thing. Dobbins is old, but Billy Slap and Sauce, that was actually a sauce made by one of our alumni's father, and he still sponsors us to this day. But, it's just the size package of what you pay for, and then we use that money to pay for our entry fees for the tournament, pay for our gas in the boats, pay for our housing in the tournaments, because we got to go there for an entire week, and it's expensive to travel to Florida for a week, especially when you're towing.
Yeah, without the sponsors, we definitely couldn't do it.
Well, and for those listening on the podcast and aren't watching this, they were showing off their JMU Bass Fishing jersey. It has all the sponsors kind of patched all over there. But not only are those jerseys pretty sweet, we talked pre-show a little bit. You guys have some pretty cool hats that I've been a little envious of, and there may be an opportunity in the future to make that available to the public. Is that true?
It is. So we're working on it right now. The last stage of production, we're just trying to find the old patch artwork, because everybody loves the old patch. We're trying to find that and get it to the guy that's making them so he can give us an official quote on it. Hopefully it'll be ready to go within a month, and then I'll make some posts on Instagram and stuff about how we're going to do the shop and everything. But everybody's welcome to buy it. We're going to set something up for that.
Awesome.
I don't know how much they're going to be yet.
That's fine. There will not be a dollar amount that will probably stop me from buying one of those hats. Well, so you talked about social media, you talked about your sponsors, you talked about ways that people can support. Give everyone one more pitch for all your social media handles, because I do know there are people that are going to want to follow these tournaments. They're going to want to learn how to kind of follow the college bass fishing ranks, and then also kind of be up to date, not only when you do your merch drop, but how they can support in the future. So go ahead and shout out your social media handles and everything so people can know where to find you.
All right. So JMU_Bass is our Instagram. Our Gmail is JMU Bass Fishing, no spaces, no capitals, @gmail.com. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me. That way you don't have to go through the request thing on Instagram. And I'm pretty good about checking my email every day or so. And then our Facebook account, I would not text us from that, but it will stay up to date. It's basically the same thing as Instagram because they're linked together.
And then do you guys have a Twitter yet or an X account?
We don't. We just started a, I don't know if you follow
TikTok.
TikTok. We just started a TikTok account. We're going to start posting on there. And I think a big thing we must start doing is Tackle Tip Tuesdays. So if people want to follow, they can get tips each week. That's going to be our goal, I think, starting this Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I encourage everyone listening, check these guys out. Sounds like Instagram's a great place to follow pictures, kind of where you guys are doing. Get on there, give these guys a follow, give them the support that they deserve. And also, like I said, let's have one more thing over Virginia Tech, because I do think that we are going to talk a little bit about football rankings later on here today, which I think for once again, many JMU fans are going to be pretty excited about. But Daniel Hayden, I appreciate you taking part of your Sunday to join us on the JMU Sound Off. And you got our support. Let us know how we can help if at all in the future. And go Dukes.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having
us.
Awesome, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to bring John back. I think Chandler's MIA today, so John is having to both host the show and do the production all by himself. So we appreciate John and all the effort he puts in to make this show possible.
That's all right. They were great, man. Again, and it's just another example. Like if you don't follow it closely, or there's a community at JMU for everyone. My community at JMU is the acapella community when I was there, and it's amazing that they're now so nationally known for the groups, and that they're traveling around the country as a front porch of the university representing. And now we've got fishermen in Florida spending the week competing against the best programs in the country. And
everything school includes bass fishing now.
Yeah. And we're just scratching the surface. So, hey, if you're watching and there's another great club or organization or something at JMU you want featured on the show, let us know. We'd love to shine a spotlight on some groups on campus that continue to proudly represent JMU. And speaking of proudly representing JMU, how about the football team? 8-1,
let's go.
Undefeated in Sunbelt play. Now squarely remaining in the college football playoff picture. Depending on your ranking du jour, 35%, 36%. I'm sure there's something out there that's either higher than that or lower than that. But
percentages don't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. Just go 1-0. You always say, Michael, right? Exactly. But I did want to give you guys the floor because you were in Huntington yesterday. I think it's always great to kind of set the stage for those of us who were at home. I have to say, I was stressing yesterday because for those who don't know, both Chandler and I have some high school football responsibilities that we do on Friday nights. So it was one of those, we had tickets to the game, Marshall, but we got out of our game too late on Friday night to make the drive. And then it didn't feel safe to leave as early as we were, but it was the first game I missed all season. And when the game went a little south, I was like, I'm going to put this squarely on me. But you guys were enough to pull us over the finish line and get us the victory. But set the stage. I know you had a chance to have an amazing day in Huntington with our friends from the Thundercast, as well as some other special guests who gave you a pretty unique experience.
No, it was awesome, John. I think, number one, you mentioned you were stressed watching the game on TV. You probably want to double or triple that, like actually being on the ground, because it got pretty precarious at times. I'm glad we stuck it out. I'll kind of lead with this. We found a way to win, which has been awesome for us. We found a way to get it done. We got the stops when we needed, and we'll go into some of the more stats on the game and such, but it was a great win overall against a very proud program. In terms of Huntington, shout out to Russ at Thundercast. They took care of us. Had an amazing experience. I think Russ, Karen, and the entire crew, it was fantastic. And I would even say this, the Marshall fans rivaled like the hospitality of our friends in North Dakota with the Bison guys. Like they welcome us with open arms. We had a lot of thank you for coming to Huntington. Thank you for visiting. Great game afterwards. I mean, it was great. And it was totally unexpected. It was my first trip to Huntington. So I think for all of us that went to all the Louisville games, you just keep going down 64 East, just take a ride a little bit sooner. So it was good to finally make that turn. Campus was great. The experience was awesome. People were great. And I think too, like from a game perspective, this kind of felt like 2022 Georgia Southern in the sense that we were moving the ball. We were able to get yards, but we got kind of obsessed a little bit with getting the ball down the field, which I kind of wish we did earlier in the year. But I also don't fault Dean Kennedy for it. I think the opportunities was there. They were stacking the box. I mentioned on the last podcast, this is going to be an evolution game for Dean Kennedy because we're playing the 3-3-5 a second time. How is he going to revert from what we did versus Old Dominion? And I'll tell you what, Marshall did everything they could to stop the run, and I think effectively they did, but it left a lot of one-on-one outside. And I thought we had a couple shots to take advantage of it. Would I have liked more first downs? I kind of referred to the idea of like we were trying to go for the jugular early. versus just getting some jabs in and getting the team moving. But all in all, I came away very pleased, and I was just really happy with how cohesive this team is, and they were able to stick it out together.
Yeah, and Taylor, I wanted to give you a floor because I know you've been really a conduit to our friends at the Thundercast, and obviously an incredible tailgate atmosphere yesterday that they put on. I know they were making some kind of crunch wrap burritos beforehand. I saw some of the great shots from Jake at the Dead Meat Society. It's just it feels like a real community that's not only there in Huntington, but they've just been such a great partner to us in sharing ideas and tips from when we started the platform. I mean, it's going as far as to telling us about the platforms we needed to launch it, to technology and hardware that we needed to buy. And then they helped to create this kind of fun now yearly campaign or trophy that we're going to hand out, which is the Battle of the Gavel. That's now going back to us for Harrisonburg, but I'm already thinking of ways that we can match or exceed, hopefully, the experience we can offer them the next time they come to Harrisonburg. But they were just one aspect of what was a special day for you.
Yeah, you can't put words into the Huntington and Marshall community and fan base. I'm a rambler, so I'm gonna try not to, but I mean, you just can't put words to it. For all intents and purposes, this program should not exist. After the plane crash in 1970, I mean, they had to climb a massive mountain to even get everyone to buy into bringing that program back. And as I've had many people from Marshall tell me, no team lost more games in the 1970s than the Marshall program. So not only did they have to achieve the buy-in to bring back this program after that tragedy, but they did not have immediate success. And then, around the mid 80s, I think they won their first championship. And Marshall has been a national brand in college football ever since. They've produced products like Randy Moss and Chad Pennington and Byron Leftwich, Jason Williams in basketball that me and Michael were talking about yesterday. But, it was even their transition from 1AA to 1A and the success that they had that penalized schools like JMU with this whole transition rule and who can and can't be, allowed to compete for championships and bowl games. So, it was the Play for 75 game yesterday, which they do annually for the 75 members that died in that plane crash. And while they were setting things up at the tailgate, me and Michael were hanging out, we're talking, there's not a lot of food available. And we had heard that the memorial fountain was just a stone's throw away from our tailgate spot. There was a gentleman, one of many, that just was walking through the tailgate to say, thank you for coming to Huntington. We're glad you're here. And I said, well, where's this? How far is the fountain? Michael, let's go check it out. And this guy, I'll show you. And so he walks us over to the fountain. And on the way to the fountain, he's given us a history lesson of everything there is to do about Marshall and the campus. We find out he's a history professor at this part of the tour. We get to the fountain. We take some pictures. We're walking back to what we think we're going back to the tailgate. But then he said, y'all seen the basketball arena? So we haven't seen the basketball. Come on, let's go to the basketball arena. He somehow gains access to the basketball arena. Before we know it, we're on an elevator. We're walking through past like the men's and women's basketball locker rooms. And before we know it, we're spitting out onto the court in the middle of a Marshall women's basketball practice. Now, me and Michael kind of hang back in the tunnel.
We stopped, Taylor. We were like, I don't think we're supposed to be here.
I don't think we can do this. And this guy, as jovial as could be, said, come on. He looks at the coach. He's like, I'm just showing my JMU friends around. And so Michael and I, we got pictures at the basketball arena. We walk through there. They show off kind of this basketball Hall of Fame area. And I'm like, all right, I guess he's going to take us back to tailgate. And he said, have you seen the rec center? So we go over to the rec center, and in the rec center, there's this cool little spot where it highlights a lot of Marshall athletics accomplishments, as well as many of the plane crash and that story there. And he said, but this isn't the Football Hall of Fame area. I want to show you the Football Hall of Fame. So now we're going to the Football Hall of Fame. We take a detour and go through the indoor practice facility. We crash the recruiting luncheon that they were having for Marshall recruits. Again, this guy just leading. And at this point, I think we've picked up Joe Shoker and a couple other JMU folks. So what was a crowd of 4 is now like 6 or 7. We're all decked to toe, head to toe in purple. We get to the Football Hall of Fame area is in like their version of the Plecker Center, their end zone facility. So we walk right into this thing, and they had just finished their version of the dog walk. Okay. Wow. So coaches, players, it's game day. We're 2 hours from kickoff. And here comes Coach Hibbs, head coach for Marshall football, just walking. He grabs Coach Hibbs. Hibbs, come here. I want you to take a picture with some of my JMU friends. And you could tell he's just like, what is going on? But this guy seems to know just everybody. He is rolling out the red carpet in a way that no one does for any opposing fan base. I mean, I was joking, I don't get treated this well at JMU. We get back out there and we finally get back to the tailgate. Slowly, we realize that this gentleman, Lou Peak, was not just a history professor. He is part of that 1970 family and the Play for 75 family. He was an athletic trainer on that football staff. I believe one of three, and only two made the trip to East Carolina for the game, and he was involved in a lot of the rescue after the crash. And it was sombering. It was a beautiful expression of what it means to just be in this Sunbelt family. I'm getting a little choked up talking about it, having my son there for his first away game. It was just incredible. So when I talk about the hospitality we got in Huntington, I know I've dragged on a little bit, but I wanted it to be known what that meant to us, what it meant to me, Michael, as a father, to my son. And to top it all off, he kind of invited us over into the Play for 75, alumni gathering, a very small group of people associated with that. Brings me in there, introduced me to folks. And then right before the game, he goes, "You want to go on the field?" And he takes me and my son onto the field. Awesome. We walk down. We actually meet the current broadcaster for Marshall football, which if you've seen the movie, the current Marshall broadcaster is the little boy who his dad was the broadcaster that died in the crash. He grew up to be the broadcaster, got a picture with him. He even, not only was he owning the Marshall stuff, he walks over the JMU football sideline and he goes up to the JMU cheerleaders and goes, "Take a picture with my boy over here." And he gets my son James, and James gets a picture with the JMU cheerleaders. So Lou Peak, I'm forever indebted to him and what he did that day. But I also want to say he is a reflection of a much larger fan base at Marshall. And when I say I got accosted many times yesterday, usually that's used in the negative sense. What I mean is there were multiple times I'm walking through the concourse or up the rows of seats, was physically grabbed by a Marshall fan just so they can say, "Hey, thanks for coming. I really appreciate you being here." I haven't even talked about the game yet, so maybe I should take a breath because I do have a lot to say about the game, but there is nothing like the Marshall fan base. That's a bucket list trip. Get out to Marshall.
Well, what I'll say just in general, I go back, it seems like we've been in part of FBS now for a decade, but plus or even longer, but it hasn't been that long. And I experienced the same thing, not to the level that you got in terms of a tour on your trip to Marshall, but felt the same hospitality our first trip there. It's mirrored other trips I've made to West Virginia. We've gone whitewater rafting on the New River Gorge, and just the true sense of gratitude that the people of West Virginia have for people who come to experience everything that's so special about that space, the just beautiful scenery, the great tourism destinations that they have. I know you got the chance to see the Mothman Museum, which is pretty cool for those who have seen the museum.
Oh yeah, Mothman.
But to sum it up for me, this is what's special about the opportunity that we have as a program to have games against competition like Marshall with fan bases that are invested, passionate, and care about it. We lacked that at times in the CAA, and it leads to games like yesterday. And to segue into what the action is, where the outcome is very much not, decided at least at halftime and through the end of that game. And that's what we all wanted. I know, yes, we get wrapped up and we don't blow the doors off people, and there's a lot of online chatter who thinks that we should win every game 42-3. But what makes college football great is when you have games that are fun and entertaining and keep you on the edge of your seats, and that's what yesterday did.
Yeah, and I want to say,
mention it. Oh, go ahead, Taylor.
Well, I was just going to say there's many things like, we talk about Virginia Tech's Enter Sandman. Clemson has a great intro. Like there's some things where it's like, you got to see this just to witness it. I'm going to add one to the list. The Play for 75 game. This is in the middle of the game. This isn't pregame. Middle of the game, they do a moment of silence where that entire stadium of 30,000 goes dead silent for about 30 seconds. And then they break out into that "We Are Marshall" chant.
Yeah.
And I mean, it hits you. It hits you right in the feels. And it was something truly to I do have a lot of thoughts about the game, but I'll let you all say some stuff and then I'll come back to me or something.
well, Michael, I do. I can probably do a whole show on everything that's special about the history of Marshall football and the tradition. But looking at the game yesterday specifically, this was a contest where, we talked last week that we thought this would be a little bit of a dogfight in terms of the opponent on the field. They're a proud program that lost a big game against Coastal Carolina, and all of the emotion and the pageantry wrapped around that We Are 75 game was going to be something that they were going to want to put their all into. We're going to want to play for the memories and the legacy of those great individuals, and they did just that. And you could see it from their coach's remarks in the lead up to yesterday's game, just how much this meant to him and the players, and they put on a good performance yesterday in terms of finding a way in a game plan to give JMU fits. I want you to have an opportunity. We'll kind of start with the offensive side of the ball first, from what you saw from JMU and what Marshall was doing to maybe make it a little bit more of a challenge for this offense as we move through the first half.
Yeah, I mean, before we go hop in, what Taylor failed to mention too is that our friend Lou also is well connected with our former head coach, Mickey Matthews, because Mickey Matthews was at Marshall for quite a while. Yep. And everyone was like, oh, we know Mickey. We love Mickey. He was talking about his wife, his kids, everything like that. And there are a lot of parallels between James Madison and Marshall. I think we could spend hours talking about it in terms of the design of the stadium. Very obvious, the basketball arena looked just like the old Convo, even the way it was designed and such. And I was like, wow, like we saw where some of the templates were of what we see today at JMU. So it was, as Taylor said, it was a sobering experience, but it was awesome. I was joking around. I hope your son James doesn't expect every away game to be like that, because
this is his first experience. It's like, that's the new bar. That's the bar. That's
the bar. Exactly. It's downhill from there. That's for sure. But in terms of the JMU offense, I kind of hit on it earlier. We needed to win this type of game. We're coming in hot, scoring 50 plus points 2 weeks in a row, all over ESPN. Everyone's telling us we're the latest and greatest. And Marshall comes out and punches us in the mouth. And we punched back, but we could not put them away. And we had to get through some adversity. You mentioned it, John. This was the 75 game. There was a lot of emotion behind it. Tony Gibson, the Marshall head coach, goes back to the Coastal game. He goes, that third quarter where they had 4 turnovers, he goes, that was the worst quarter of football in my career. In the post game. And I think the Marshall kids took all of that to heart. The offensive lineman, I think one of the guys, number 70, Slappy, was mentioning that the offensive line was embarrassed after Thursday, and they wanted to come back and show what they're made of versus us. So we were getting the best. There was even talk of the parents were talking about like how the players were so locked in because they wanted to win this game for the fan base. So we were going to get everything we were going to get from the Thundering Herd. And offensively, we were already down one man. We found out right before kickoff, left tackle, who's been a stalwart there for the last couple of years, Joseph Simmons, was out this game. We had, I think, former starting right guard Josh Toner, who's been in the program for 5 years, step in at left tackle. And, we didn't skip a beat, right? I think we still had 139 yards on the ground, which is not up to our standards, but Marshall did a really good job defensively stopping us. And Barnett, right? Another 3 touchdown game, 270 yards in the air, looked fantastic at times. But we left a lot of plays on the field. They were stacking the box against us. Wayne Knight still had 87 rushing yards, but they were hard earned for anyone watching the game. We had a lot of negative passes against us, or negative rushing yards gained. But we were finding ways to mix it up. We had that 80-yard ball to Jalen Sanchez in the second half. Barnett was 14 for 24. He was able to make it work in the pocket, even without our starting left tackle. I thought we protected relatively well, but we saw plays that were there, right? We saw the third quarter. It was the third quarter where Nick DeGennaro, there was nobody 40 yards close to him. And unfortunately, the ball was behind him or whatnot, couldn't get his hands on it, and it was wide open, and we drop it. We score there. We're up 28-12. We score again. That's 35-12. We take the air out of the ball. Game over, right? But I think they did just enough. And to watch that last play in the fourth quarter, I think it was 3rd and 3. And that was the play. It was right before the 2-minute warning. And to see us find a way to make it happen, and not just make it happen, we score a touchdown with that throw to Wayne Knight. It's just a couple weeks back, we talked about we got to get behind this team. And somehow, it's not pretty. There's going to be challenges, but they find a way to stick together, at least offensively. And we're seeing this team maturing in front of us. And I'm sure we'll get our left tackle back at some point, but seeing the next man up approach was really awesome. And I think we grew a lot after this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm curious where your head's at with it, Taylor, but there were a lot of moments yesterday, whether the momentum shifts in this game where either last year's team or even earlier in the season, you might have seen that Alonzo Barnett that, maybe feels the pressure and starts to kind of go into himself and lose his confidence. I just, the growth in him yesterday for me was obvious, and there's no better play where I feel like exemplifies that after there's a sequence of 2 plays. He gets sacked on the first play from scrimmage, and then the next play is when he's hitting the arm and he throws an interception, and that's when, at least on TV, it felt like the momentum really shifted in favor of Marshall. But he didn't let it get him down. It didn't let him stomp his confidence and swagger. And I think that is the difference, for me at least, in our offense being able to do what they did at the end of the game and get us to victory. I'm curious how that felt in the stadium, because at least on TV, that felt like such a monumental moment. But again, that showed just his ability to grow as a leader and how much more confidence he has in his command and the ability to diagnose what defenses they're throwing at them and then get us the moment that we see at the end of the game with Wayne Knight.
Yeah, I mean, context. When we're talking fandom, it's all in context. If we go back in time a month ago, and you see what Marshall did to Old Dominion, and I give you a little peek of the future, and I say, hey, good news, we're going to make it through Old Dominion and Texas State, blowing them out, and we're going to win 35-23 at Marshall. Everyone is saying that's best case scenario. When we're coming off of 2 blowout wins, one against a team that in the first month of the season, we're like, I don't even know if we can beat Old Dominion. Another against a team that Texas State was looking really good, predicted high in the West. We were coming into that game in the context of everything. Sorry, I've completely lost track of where I was.
Well, no, I just to help you out. I remember us having conversations in the preseason, and then as we went past the Louisville game offline, being like, "Is the Texas State game the one we're going to drop?" Because
that's what I was saying. What I was getting to was we're coming off those 2 games, and now we're kind of in this mode because again, we'd only played 1 game in 3 weeks, so we're kind of in this mode that September mindset was. Remember, we can't compete for a Sun Belt championship. This isn't a championship caliber team. Then the October mindset blowing out Old Dominion, Texas State. It's like, I mean, we could take on Alabama. And then so you come into Marshall and, it's a close game. There's emotion behind the game. Marshall's a good team. It's on the road. And, I'm thankful for that last touchdown because 35-23 in this college football playoff polls era where the sexiness and the attractiveness of the score at the end of the game means a lot. It looks a lot better than 28-23. I never got into a panic mode, especially since I saw the defense who did have their hiccups yesterday. Those 2 times where Marshall had the chance to take they held the line. That 4th down stop was huge. Wayne Knight again. I think we're getting most fans probably just expect the greatness of Wayne Knight to continue to happen game after game. I mean, 87 yards on the ground, 79 yards receiving. That one catch that he had at the very end of the first half, 17-yard catch where he popped a guy. I mean, he gave this guy
never shies away from contact.
Yes.
And trying. I look at it as a very intentional way that he sends a message to opposing defenses that if you're going to
he initiates everything every time. Is why he's a joy to watch.
Yeah, and he turns plays that should be a loss or a 1 or 2 yard gain into a 5 or 6 yard gain. He still averaged over 6 yards a carry yesterday. He's such a weapon. He's probably the only player that has been consistent from week 1 to today with 9 games through the season. Alonza and the offensive game plan, obviously we've talked about this podcast. It was birthed out of text threads. I've had a lot of different perspectives on, Coach Kennedy, the game plan, Alonza, the offense. For me, I think we put up 35 points. We scored enough to win. No team has still scored more than 3 touchdowns on this team. And Michael kind of hit on this earlier. They sold out on the rush and they sold out on a lot of these crossing patterns and a lot of this short stuff that we've been getting away with. And they're like, yeah. And then we're going to go man to man on your receivers. We're going to let you throw the deep ball. And the good thing is with that deep ball, there were a lot that we missed. You only need to hit 2 or 3 in a game to put up the points that we did and to put up the numbers that we did.
Well, okay, and Michael, I want your perspective on something because the hallmark of this team for me is that it seems like all year long we keep finding more players that are going to step up and have their moment to lead this team to victory. So in the last couple of weeks, it's been Nick DeGennaro and Landon Ellis. We've had tight ends who have played a major role in terms of getting us a victory. George Pettaway and Iodai have contributed. We've had are just finding ways to include new players in the game plan. And yesterday we get a chance to see Jalen Sanchez have his moment. 3 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown, as well as Brandon Wisłowski, who also gets a touchdown through the air. And it's 2 additional weapons. When all the focus is on Landon Ellis and Nick DeGennaro, probably from a defense perspective, you're like, if you take them out of the game, what's JMU going to do? We found 2 additional players who could help us get meaningful contributions towards a win. That's massive because it makes us even harder to game plan against as we move through the rest of the Sun Belt slate.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, John, because I was going to say that the depth really showed, not just on the offensive line with people being out, but also on the outside. So, Brandon Wisłowski, right, has been sort of a weapon for us in the screen game, yards after the catch, goes down the field on a post and mosses a guy. And it wasn't just like he got up there. Like he took the ball away from that defender. And all of us were in the stands and we're going, whoa, like we didn't know this guy had that ability. And, you talk about a kid that was a triple option kid in high school, played at Maryland, has amazing speed. Now we're adding a jump ball addition there. That was really awesome to see. Jalen Sanchez, it's funny. When he scored that 80-yard touchdown, I was like, I wonder if that was supposed to be DeGennaro's play, but because he dropped it, they put Sanchez in that route instead, and he ran it beautifully. And I'll throw another one in there, guys. I think we may have missed this. Isaiah Alston.
Yeah, he got a catch. And it was a nice run after the catch, too. Yeah.
First down catch. I think it was off of RPO. He was able to get a little bit of separation on a hitch route, and that's a name we haven't heard in a while. And you're talking a 6'4", 210 guy that can we get that aspect of the game going? So there's just like, again, everything is maturing. Everything is evolving. And I echo what Taylor said. I think Dean Kennedy, obviously, like we're going to have polarizing thoughts from the fans, but he put 35 points. We still had 409 yards of total offense, 100 yards in the ground, 200 plus in the air. And we just had to make some plays. Even that third down play down the field on the sideline of Jalen Sanchez, where he had the ball in his hand.
That would have been the catch of the year. Or maybe not over the Indiana catch yesterday, but it
would
have been one of the top, 5 catches you see all year.
That was fantastic. And even like talking about catches, how about the third? It was a 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 6 situation. Wayne Knight runs a Texas route over the middle and he catches the ball on his fingertips.
Yeah.
And he was about to fall. If he fell, we wouldn't have gotten that first down. Keeps his feet and gets, 7 or 8 yards first down. That was, playmakers make plays, and we're finding guys that are making plays.
And to your point about the kind of the polarization of Dean Kennedy, at the very least, when we needed a play call, to really the game is very much in doubt. It's a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, in the fourth quarter late. JMU needs a first down to keep the clock running and to get a win. That they diagnosed exactly what Marshall was going to throw at us. And a perfectly executed call to Wayne Knight, who takes it the distance. But if you listen to the post-game conversation with Alonzo Barnett and with Coach, they knew that was coming. They not only called the play, they had practiced this week and executed it. And if you go back and watch the replay, Wayne Knight kind of has to adjust his body to make that catch. It was a little high, and to not only come down with it, but then to keep running the way he did and get in the end zone is a very special play. But I want to highlight one other aspect of yesterday that I think is one of the most important things I heard in the post game from Alonzo, where he talks about Wisłowski and Sanchez, and as well as Isaiah Alston having their moments yesterday. He said in previous years on other teams, it would have been easy for those guys to become negative forces in the locker room, to maybe detract away from the plan, detract away from the overall mission of where this team is trying to head. But they haven't. They've stayed positive. They've been involved in those kind of player-led meetings, which, remember, that was a shift after some of the early season struggles. Is Alonzo and this receiving group started meeting individually with the coaching staff and with offensive coordinator to make sure they're sharing anecdotes and ideas. And one thing that also came out yesterday was that, Alonzo's texting the coaching staff on Halloween Eve, at 10 o'clock when, people are out doing costumes and stuff. Alonzo's there talking about what plays we need to run. And it just shows how dialed in and how focused this group is on the end prize, but not allowing any negativity to creep in, even when maybe they're not having the individual success each and every one of them would like. And that's pretty special.
Right. And we're only a few weeks away from where most of the JMU fan base was saying, can this team even put up a 200-yard passing game? The last 4 games, Alonzo's put up 290, 295, 264, 270 touchdowns. He's put up 3, 2, 4, 3 in the air. So for a passing offense that many in the JMU Nation were saying, this is not, and early on, I was saying this is not the passing offense that is going to win us a championship. We're kind of taking it for granted now that we're getting this type of production out of our quarterback. In addition to, it's a new wide receiver every game that's kind of become the new hot guy, and our backfield is consistent. I mean, when again, I can't say enough about Wayne Knight, but I thought I don't have a problem really at all with how the offense was run yesterday, nor do I have any problem with the production they did. I think they played to Marshall's scheme. Marshall was going to say they're going to beat us over the top. We did, and we were successful.
I mean, last point on that, Taylor. When's the last time we saw the speed option? And you could tell the Marshall was crashing inside, and we ran it to the outside to Wayne Knight. I think he got 15, 20 yards out of it, and we haven't seen that since Weber State, maybe. So again, it's adjustment. It's a chess match, and we have to all realize as fans, Marshall has 85 scholarships too.
Yep,
they have really good players, and I said it on the last podcast. That was probably physicality-wise one of the more talented teams we're playing. You got 4 stars all over that team. That front 3, all guys over 300 pounds, big bodies up front, and you could tell they were pushing us around a little bit. But we found a way. We adjusted where we needed to.
So maybe to switch gears now to the defensive side of things, this was a game where the Marshall offense, just to be candid, came out with a great game plan to try to come against a defense that was getting all the national conversation. We hadn't given up a point in the second half. I'll kind of turn the floor over to you, Michael, to what they did in terms of turning in the best running performance of the season against JMU. It was a really well-orchestrated game plan led by a quarterback who very much impressed me in terms of his leadership, but also kind of just the joy that he brought to the game. He was somebody who clearly was having a lot of fun yesterday, and I've always thought in sports, when you're having fun, it probably means you're playing pretty well.
Yeah. Carlos Del Rio Wilson had a phenomenal game. It was a rebound game for him after having 5 turnovers versus Coastal. I'll kind of start at a high level. People need to know. So the offensive coordinator at Marshall is Rod Smith. If you've been following any of the coaching changes at JMU over the years, he always has his name in there. He was the former OC when West Virginia had Pat White and Michigan had Denard Robinson and all those teams. He was the OC. So you knew he was going to be creative. And I'll say it, like Marshall, they were controlling the game, right? Look, 414 yards of total offense. I think that was our worst defensive output over all year. They only had 166 yards passing, but they had 248 yards on the ground on 50 rushing attempts. 23 of that was the quarterback. And they came out, I think it was the first and second quarter. It was their version of the diamond formation where they had a back in a pistol position with, I think, a back and a tight end left and right of the quarterback. And they were playing a little option ball against us, and it worked, right? It was either going to be a dive, an option out, or they would hit the tight end down the seam route in the middle when our guys were a little bit out of place. And I think it was phenomenal, right? In the sense that we run a very aggressive defense, and they were able to exploit that. So I'm not surprised to see a Rod Smith, having a couple days extra to prepare for us, be able to find that. But also, I thought we saw a little bit of rust from the defense. Taylor mentioned it. It was our first game in 3 weeks, essentially, just with all the crazy scheduling with the Texas State game. I think the defense needed time to, as Coach Hitchler says, get their feet underneath them. But they were able to adjust. I mean, we gave up 248 yards on the ground. Their running backs ran strong. Antoine Roberts, all those guys, those were pretty impressive folks. But they made the plays when they needed to. The fourth down stops, not letting them get into the end zone even at the end of the game. I think that was a crucial testament on Coach Grotzky and the strength and conditioning staff, because Marshall was leaning on us, and they had some big boys up front, and we were rotating guys left and right. And you could tell, even Turner Schmidt, if people remember him, he transferred from Robert Morris, who was an all SoCon guy. He even got in the game, and we haven't seen him since week 1. But we kept rotating. We found guys to make it work, and we made the plays that matter. And the young guys like Go Byra and Sahir West, look at the fourth down stops in the fourth quarter. It was because of those two, and because they were fresh, able to crash in. So it's a tough game, but at the end of the day too, now you have things you can improve on. We kind of come back to earth defensively as a staff and as a personnel, and they'll be motivated because this App State team, they've got some firepower in offense, and we need to be able to stop them.
Yeah, well, I will say a couple of things that I gleaned from the post-game press conference from the Marshall side is they did say going in, they didn't think they would be able to pass against us because they couldn't protect. That our ability to rush the passer was something they were very concerned about, and that led to what they did in terms of a heavy emphasis on the running game. I also liked Coach Chesney's remarks about how he went to his defense at the end of the game and said, look, you have a 5-point lead and all you got to do is get a stop. You'd be pretty excited about that. And so again, this team didn't panic. They didn't go away. And even Coach Chesney referenced, he said, you could feel the momentum starting to shift. And maybe last year, that's a game where the pendulum swings the other way and it goes, but this team remains confident, remains locked in. A good game from Tyler Brown yesterday. I thought, again, Gannon Weathersby, continues to be a force in the middle of our defense. Trent Hendrick obviously was able to bounce back from some moments in the game that I know he would want to have back. Was also, again, impressed with Sahir West, and I continue to be impressed with our corners who continue to just grow each and every week. Taylor, your thoughts on the defense?
One trend that I noticed was the Louisiana game. We gave up 45 yards on the ground. The Old Dominion 76, so that's almost doubling that. Texas State 122, doubled that. Marshall 248, doubled that. So that we're kind of exponentially trending on giving up rushing yards, and I think that's less to do with our defense playing bad. I don't think it's that they're playing bad. I don't think it's inefficient, the defense. I think it's coaching staffs trying to find a new way to beat JMU. You mentioned that Marshall said they didn't feel like they could protect their quarterback. That's why they didn't want to take to the passing game. I think you see this a lot with the academies traditionally, your Armies, your Air Force, your Navies, where they're maybe undersized, not as athletic as the team they're facing, and they're going to play a lot of misdirection. They're going to run the ball a lot of different ways, a lot of RPO, a lot of just trying to maybe out trick the defense versus trying to outpower them and being bigger, stronger, and faster. And I think this trend that you've seen where the defense is giving up more rushing yardage is showing that coaches recognize the only chance we really stand is to maybe try and play this game the way like some of those academies play, some of their more superior opponents. I think if I'm App State, though, I'm seeing, well, the strategies early in the season, they didn't work. The strategies now have worked a little better. But, I don't really know if I'm an offense, how do I attack this defense? Where do I expose their weaknesses? I mentioned once again, still no one has scored more than 3 touchdowns on this defense all year. So if I'm App State going into this game or any offense trying to plan for our defensive scheme, I don't know if there is a weakness to exploit as much as just trying to do things different ways and see how JMU reacts, which so far yesterday, they reacted exactly as they needed to.
Yeah, it was a good point, Taylor, because I think if you look back, Marshall is the first team to actually hold the ball longer than JMU for the entire game. I think they beat us time of possession 32-28, if I remember correctly. And a lot of that had to do with the quarterback. And a lot of those runs, he was only 16 for 35 in the air, but he had 23 carries for 73 yards. But if you were watching that game, I felt like he had over 100 plus, but he was probably zigzagging a little bit there. But he was a special player. And John mentioned sort of the joy that he had. He kind of reminded me of, I hate to say it, the 2019 Trey Lance game where he is a big body quarterback. If you're not coming with some malice and some oil and vinegar, he was going to run you over, and you saw it, right?
That's the first time all year I saw guys bounce off of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the run game, right? They wanted to control the line of scrimmage. They wanted to control the time of possession, keep AB3 off the field. And as Chesney says it, they wanted to run the quarterback, +1 run game. And he's had 43 carries now in the last 2 weeks. And mind you, he was getting some shots. Like they were aiming for every bit of them, and he was getting up and running it again with no fear. So I got to give that kid a lot of his flowers there. But their running back, man, Antoine Roberts, 20 carries for 121 yards. A lot of that was off that sort of like diamond option thing. That worried me a little bit because especially when we got close to the end zone, we let him have that 15-yarder that was wide open, and you could tell things were starting to break a little bit, but we found a way to respond.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important part on the road, backs against the wall, against a team that, they were reeling, right? They got embarrassed. This is in front of their home crowd. I thought that was really sound play. And I think, like I said, Coach Hischer will get these guys right, and we'll figure it out from there.
I want to kind of bring.
Oh yeah, you go.
Well, I wanted to bring full circle because I was waiting to kind of hold on to this comment until we had talked about both offense and defense. From my perspective, what I think the Marshall coaching staff was doing, John, you pointed out this. They held on to the ball, so they said, "We're going to run. We're going to hold on to the ball. It's going to give JMU's offense fewer possessions, okay? And then the way we're going to play JMU's offense, we're going to take away their run. We're going to take away the short stuff. We're going to make them beat us on these long, high risk, high reward." passes, and you're just at that point, it's just math. You're playing the odds. You're saying they have fewer chances. It's more high risk plays. We're hoping that they don't hit those 1 or 2 long balls that give them a long touchdown. And again, this is where I praise Kennedy, Chesney, our offense, Alonzo, the players, is we went against the odds and we made the big plays when we needed to. So it really was kind of a 1-2 punch with their offense and defense and what they were trying to do. But yet again, it's one more scheme that someone has tried to take down JMU with that has not worked. And I think teams at this part of the season are running out of ways of how to approach this JMU team.
I did want to touch on special teams for a little bit because there were some special teams moments in the game, obviously, that mattered. A lot of focus on the fake punt. I think that's listening to some of the aftermath of the game, we were pretty aggressive yesterday. We almost blocked the first punt of the game, and credit to the Marshall coaching staff for recognizing that. And I think calling a really good play, and then credit to their punter for executing it. If there's a downside to special teams yesterday, we miss a field goal. That I know there was some chatter if the ball was flat. I heard in the post game, Chesney was addressing that, but
it also doesn't help that Marshall's field goal kicker looks like an NFL kid. Yeah,
I mean, we got to send Drew Kane to Ireland, or maybe we need a sound off trip to Ireland or something to experience the Emerald Isles and see if we can find a kicker. But man, that kid was special. But on a positive side, Patrick Rea, I thought was outstanding yesterday. Was able to pin them inside the 1 again. We don't take advantage of that opportunity, give up a big run right afterwards, but he is, after a rocky start, let's just be honest, has really rounded into form, and has been somebody who what I like about him is the patience he shows when he gets the ball, to maybe be able to hesitate or delay his kick maybe an extra second or 2 to get our runners down the field. He did that yesterday a couple times. It was pretty special to watch. And then just on special teams, you got to recognize Wayne Knight one more time. His ability to confidently field punts under pressure remains one of the most impressive things that I've seen on the field this year. It's just been awesome to watch. I have no doubt that he's going to secure those balls when they come in, and some of those in some wind and with some pressure in his face. I always find myself in awe of what he does in that aspect of the game. And it's probably not something obviously that gets a lot of attention because of the great stuff he does when he's either carrying the ball or receiving it. But it's an absolutely important piece to being able to make sure that we can secure punts and maintain field position in the game. So just a really great performance all around from him and special teams. Though if there's anything I find myself concerned with, is just our ability to make a big field goal when it matters most, and that's something that I'm sure the staff is focused on as we move through the remainder of our schedule. But do want to turn our attention now to a game that needs no introduction. I know every year when we kind of sit down to do our previews, there's one game in the schedule that's always circled, and it's App State. We've gone into great detail on this show in the past about the history between these two teams. And now going into this game, there's going to be even more noise as we head towards this game with App State. Is now JMU ranked 25 in the coaches poll, 24 in the AP poll. And who knows what happens on Tuesday. We're actually one spot in the poll ahead of USF. I'm sure if anybody's been on Twitter, their fans have certainly come out of the woodwork in every way, shape, or form. But this is a massive game for JMU. Let's be honest. The App State athletics program has kind of just owned us. With the success they've had in men's and women's basketball against us, with the success they've had obviously on the football field the last 2 seasons. This is a game that feels personal to me. I can tell you there's no game I want to win more than this. And this is an opponent that's coming in reeling a little bit after the last couple of performances, and it's going to take everything we have. I can guarantee you that's what Bob's going to be saying in his press conference on Monday. This is a team that if you don't take them serious, can do what they always do, and that's give JMU fits.
Yeah, Michael asked me to pull some of App State's stats from the conference perspective earlier before the show, and they're sneaky. I think right now a lot of us have kind of written off App State with some of the losses they've had. They haven't been making waves. I think, again, I mentioned context earlier. We're so used to App being at the very top that when they are a mid team, we might be thinking that's a lot worse than they actually are because we expect them kind of always to be at the top of the conference. But on the offensive side, they're 8th in scoring, 6th in yards per game, 12th in rushing, but 1st in passing. So kind of a Jekyll and Hyde there on their offensive side. On the defensive side, they're 6th in scoring, 6th in yards. They are 2nd in defensive rushing. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to attack us. Do they kind of take a Marshall formula, make us go over the top? But I don't know if that'd be such a great idea because they are dead last in pass defense. So, if they sell out and put everyone in the box, from what I've seen from Zoe in the passing game, the last few games, I have no doubt that we can burn them over top. But it'll be an interesting, and like John said, though, records go out the window. This is an App State program who holds a lot of brand recognition nationally, especially when you're talking about the G5 programs. They're kind of thought of as a giant killer, even though some of that reputation's maybe getting a little outdated at this point. But, this is a game that I think a lot of our students recognize the name App State and what it means to beat them. And again, as we talk about the media, the polls, national attention, this is one of those teams where everybody in the sports industry recognizes, and you put up a good score and a good fight against this team, it's going to look very good in terms of how your team is recognized nationally.
John mentioned earlier about this game potentially being personal. I would argue it's very much, as a JMU fan, this is a personal game. You go back to 2023 and all the hoopla on College Game Day, and for them to beat us in overtime, to Joey Aguilar to Caden Robinson at the corner of the end zone where we thought we had a stop. We thought we had them. And you could just hear the crowd just deflated right afterwards. And mind you, it was a 1 o'clock game. And I could argue that because of game day, everyone thought it was 9 o'clock at night when the end of that game because of the outcome. Then you throw back to last year at Boone after the
21-3 at one point. Start off 21-3 or something.
Yeah, we were up 21-3. It was the game after the storms that hit the area and it was a big game for App State, but we were controlling the game. But I just remember how the fans were acting towards our fans, the snowballs afterwards. I know we had a lot of big boosters on our side that were donating to the App State community after the storms, and there was no mention of it, and it was like not even appreciated on their side. There was a lot of personal battles there, and this is a game that we have to win. And I think you throw all the records out. Who cares if they're last on passing, whatever. This is a game where you can make a statement. And I guarantee the players in the locker room know it too. Alonzo Barnett was there in 2023. Manny Bush was a big time player in that game. Trent Hedrick was there. Justin Eaglin was there. Jacob Thomas was the starting safety that game. We have a lot of folks that remember how they felt last year and the year before. And now we have them back in Bridgeforth.
Yeah, emotionally, this game, you go back to 07, right? The fumble that the fumble that cost us the playoff win. You go back to 08, how we beat App State there. Then there's the big gap, right? 22, the big comeback for us. 23, Mike already mentioned the College Game Day. Yes, last year, that was the game that knocked out any chance that we had of coming in first place and winning the East. It has been an emotionally devastating game for the losing fan base each time. And I don't even want to even speak that scenario into existence because there is so much on the line they're still playing for bowl contention. We're still playing. As John alluded to earlier today, JMU is ranked in both national polls. We'll still wait to see what happens on Tuesday night, but JMU is now in the spotlight. And if there's a team that would love to take that spotlight off of JMU and knows how to do it, it's this App State program. So I think maybe that actually plays in our favor because I don't think the team or the coaching staff will be overlooking this team because of their record, because they know who they are and the threat that they are to what we want to accomplish.
So, Michael, when you look at this game, though, in terms of what App does, for fans who may not have tuned in to see what App State has done this year, is there anything you see from their offense in particular that mirrors any teams we played earlier in the season, or is this just its own team and their own scheme that's unique?
I think Taylor mentioned it. They want to outscore you, right? So people need to know. So App State, unfortunately, their former coach had passed away earlier this year. They're breaking in Dowell Loggins, who was, I believe, the OC at South Carolina last year, OC quarterback coach. And they also have if you look at their staff, you'll notice some, if you're an NFL diehard, you'll see names like Clyde Christensen on that staff, who's their wide receivers coach. He was the former OC for the Indianapolis Colts when Peyton Manning was there. So they've got a lot of experience on the staff, but right now I think they're finding their identity, and that identity is to throw the ball. Since their starting running back, Kanye Roberts, went down early this year, they had a tight end by the name of Isaiah Cummings. That was a difference maker. Sources say that was the end of their offense when he went down because they had to shift everything completely. But you look at AJ Swan, who was at LSU the year before. He was brought in by the new head coaching staff, and they've got this three-headed monster right now of Jaden Barnes, a receiver, Dalton Stroman, and Davion Dozier. Dalton Stroman, by the way, 6'5", 210, runs a high 4.3, low 4.4. He's a down the field guy. And you look at a kid like Jaden Barnes, which last game against Georgia Southern caught 13 balls for 160 yards and a touchdown. That's your guy. Mm-hmm. And you look at AJ Swan, 34 for 51 for 348 yards. He had one pick and 2 lost fumbles, but that gives you a sense of what they want to do. And Taylor was talking about, Marshall was running the ball because they wanted to stop us. They couldn't throw the ball against us. App State wants to sling the ball around, and we're going to have to find a way to stop that quickly. And then defensively, it's a weird team. I don't really know much about them. They've got a ton of new players. Obviously, they have a new coaching staff, so they've brought in 60 plus, 70 plus new guys. I mean, the only player that really was at App State last year that was a big name is now playing for Georgia Southern. So there's a lot of turnover on that side. So be curious to see what happens. I mean, there's still a traditional 4-2-5 team, but I think this is a game where we talked about, versus Marshall, we're going for the jugular, going for the haymaker. I think if we just get in some jabs on this team, get up 2 or 3 scores, and then stomp on their throat and embarrassing them, that's what we need to do next Saturday.
Well, this is a game where the crowd is 100%. Going to be a major factor. Like if you're a fan, we talked a lot about, Matt Rohn on a couple of weeks ago telling us we all need to get in the stands for the ODU game. The same rule, same lesson applies for this opponent. Make our home field advantage a massive factor. Give the team the energy that they have shown all year long that they will play off of in a massive way. And that's where I think the difference in helping us, go from maybe squeaking out a win to taking care of business, sending a statement can be a massive, massive opportunity for us all to have an impact. So enjoy. It's a 3:30 game. No excuses. Not like it's a noon kickoff. You can have a great tailgate, but get inside and make our voices heard because we can be a major factor in this one. I did want to transition, guys. Just the final thoughts. Taylor, I'll go to you first. We've obviously talked about a lot, but there's also a lot of other subjects we could touch on. Did want to mention a little bit, though, for my final thought, just leading into, in case you want to touch on it, kind of a mixed bag week for both our men's and women's basketball programs this week. The men's team struggling a little bit in their last contest. They have a game today as well. The women's team does drop a game to George Mason in a pretty physical matchup for them. But there's, in the transfer portal era, both of these programs trying to mesh these lineups and to try to grow. And again, we're really just building towards conference tournament time and where it's going to really define where we go in terms of the season. But a lot of basketball left to play for both teams.
Yeah. I'm looking ahead to some of the games next week for football. There's a big Duke UVA matchup. Duke is still in the running for as a 4-loss team, still in the running for an ACC championship. I think maybe some people saw that, there's some chaos scenarios where 2, and even mathematically 3 G5 teams, but 2 G5 teams sneaking their way into the playoffs if the Big 12 and the ACC champion does not have a higher CFP ranking than that of the American or the Sun Belt, or even San Diego State out in the Mountain West. So that Duke UVA game I'm going to be keeping an eye on. We've talked about some of our friends in the American Conference. I didn't know they had fan bases. I thought they were just TV markets, because there's a lot of empty stadiums in a lot of those games. But USF plays Navy. I think, be interesting if USF can keep up, a lot of pressure on them. And that Navy team's not bad, even though they did get beat by a North Texas team that I'm not as high on. Memphis, East Carolina. East Carolina's a 1-loss team in the American. Never know what they could do and sneak up. North Texas plays that UAB team that knocked off Memphis, and UAB doesn't have a whole lot to play for. They're getting a new coaching staff, so keep an eye on that. Then Texas State Southern Miss. I don't know why I'm unwilling to say that Texas State's not any good. I mean, they just keep losing, so you would think by now. But I don't think Texas State's bad, and I'm curious to see what Southern Miss does in that game. I don't mean to talk down on the West. I think Arkansas State's kind of sneaky good, but it almost seems like the East just seems a half step better across the board than those Western teams. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on there for the hopes of JMU representing the East in the Sun Belt Championship. Two other things. One, we talked about App State. Everyone remembers the snowballs. I remember the snowballs. For my birthday this year, I want to give credit to my mom and dad. They brought in this big gift bag and they put it in front of me and I pulled it out, and it was a bag of white streamers with a note on it that said "for the App State game." So I'm going to be loaded up to the teeth with white streamers. If anyone else wants to join me in white streamers, we're classy. We don't throw snowballs, but a couple white streamers never hurt anybody. But second or third, I can't how many points I've made. This one goes out to Shane Metlin because this is a point that he made. So I'm going to read his tweet that he made today that I just think puts into perspective everything that JMU's accomplished in its first 4 years of FBS. It says JMU moved to FBS in 2022. As of now, these are the programs to have won at least 8 games each year in that time: Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, Ole Miss, and BYU and JMU. Only JMU and Alabama have done so with more than one coach. In the NIL era, in the transfer era, in the coaches circus, that's pretty impressive. And as we mentioned, we found out earlier today, ranked in both the coaches and the AP poll, third time in 4 years, 4 years in a row getting votes in those polls. I think we've come to expect this as the norm, and it has been for the last 4 years. But I think this is another good reminder to just take it in, folks. Take it in. When you're sitting around a tailgate 30, 40 years from now, you're going to be talking about this 4-year run. I hope after next year, it's a 5-year run. I hope the run doesn't stop. But this is going to be a moment in time when you're talking about, I was a fan in those days. That's before they added the other side to the other Godwin side. That's before we were getting 40,000 a game, whatever. These are the days that you're going to be talking about with tailgates for friends for many years. It's kind of cool to see that my son is coming up in his JMU fandom and all this, but we are doing some special stuff, and it's we need to stop and smell the roses, because 8-1 this far into the season is pretty impressive.
Michael.
I've got 2 quick points. I think number one, I want to double down on, John, what you said about the crowd and the factor they'll bring in for App State. I think this is a fantastic game for us as a fan base, as a community, students, alums, community alike, to come together against App State and what they've done to us the last 2 years, because it has been devastating. Even for basketball, we seem to be able to beat them as well there, right? So I think it's a great opportunity to come together. So JMU Barstool account, fantastic work in the ODU game on the tarps off thing, and that was just seeing what the stadium was like and the energy around in the third and fourth quarter of that game. We can bring that to App State, and we're going to need that come 3:30 next Saturday. So let's come together. Let's root hard. Let's root clean. And I love Taylor's idea around the white streamers, whatever you need to do to get up for this game. Let's make it happen. And I guarantee the coaching staff will. Lastly here, I'll bring up a point here on where we are right now on the national stage is if you look at what Nick Saban, former coach at Alabama, used to say, and honestly, our old head coach used to say this too. He goes, being normal is average. And right now, everything about JMU is not normal, when we should really relish these moments, because think about it. We're not even 4 years into FBS. We've been ranked, 3 out of the 4 years. We've gotten votes in the coaches poll, in the AP poll every year. And I remember the conversations in 2019 and 2020. Oh my God, if we move up to FBS, we need to do it, but we got to get used to losing. We're lucky to be over 500. We'll never get college game day. All right, they'll never come back. We'll have to get used to it. How are we going to get everyone to fill up the stadium, because everyone wants the playoff games? And what if we're not playing for national championships? And we're seeing what's happening 3.5 years in. And to kind of use the joke, we don't even have a recruiting staff yet, right? We're still building into the program and still evolving there. But everything about JMU, it's not normal, right? What you're seeing across college game day and college football right now is declining attendances, declining this, declining that. You even saw the Arkansas State head coach going, where are the fans at when his team ran out? They caught it on TV. He goes, where are the fans? And he told his team, we've got to bring our own energy. We are not that at all. So JMU is a special place. Whatever American Twitter account, bashes you or trolls you, brush it off. I don't even think about responding to them and getting down at their level. JMU is a special place. Believe in it, trust in it, enjoy it, and let's root really hard next Saturday.
My last little final thought, though, and then we have very special guests in waiting in the wings, is this is now the time also where there's going to be a lot of other things out there that could distract away from what kind of moment we're living through. There was already an article this week, kind of profiling Coach Chesney in The Athletic, tagging him as a P4. I've seen discussions on JMU Nation and X and other platforms talking about, is he a candidate for this job, candidate for that job? And I caution it to say it would be easy, for me included, to get sucked into that kind of rabbit hole of, oh my God, what's going to happen when this happens? Or first of all, nothing's happened yet. No one knows what's going to happen in this coaching carousel, but don't let it distract from the moment we're having and the path that's in front of us and the opportunity that this program has and the opportunity that we have as fans to enjoy it. As you've said, Michael, the program will always be okay. We've got tremendous leadership, whether it's in President Jim, Matt Rohn, Cliff Wood, who are steering this ship in close coordination and collaboration with the coaching staff. And if there was a change down the road, we're going to be okay. But don't let it distract from the fun that you should be having, enjoying the moment now. And I say that just to take a deep breath. As you said, when an American account tries to ruin it, when a national outlet tries to say our coach is going X, Y, and Z, it's fine. We'll worry about that when it happens. Enjoy the moment because it's a special time that, as Taylor always says, none of it's guaranteed for this program and any program.
And speaking of special times, we said a lot of reasons to go to Marshall. John kind of hinted at one of the most important fun things to go to Marshall is 45 minutes up the road is the Mothman Museum. And so James just wanted to come on and show off. What do you got in your hand?
Mothman.
It's Mothman figurine. So when you go to Huntington, go to Marshall game, you can not only see a great football game, but you can go right up the road to the Mothman Museum. So,
and if you're looking for a cool movie, check it out. It's awesome. It's a fun watch. All right, guys. And with that, we will, as always, give a shout out to our sponsors one more time. Skyline Financial Partners, Champions Dry Bourbon, Where's Woody, Purple Nation, Shoker Enterprises, the Dead Meat Society, Outdoor Kitchen Creations, and Valley Road Vineyards. It's because of you that this show happens, as well as because of all of you, the viewers who continue to engage with our content. Continue to like and subscribe our stuff. Continue to share it. It helps us grow. Note that it is very much appreciated. And with that, that's going to do it for another episode of JMU Sound Off. We'll be back next week on Sunday to recap the game against App State and look forward to our next contest against Washington State, Marvel Day. A lot of great things coming for the JMU universe. Get out to the basketball arena, support these teams, and watch all the content you can. It helps this program grow. Enjoy the moment. And with that, we'll talk to you soon. And as always, go Dukes.